Hello, everybody. Happy Wellness Wednesday. Chef Tiffany Benson here, checking in with you guys for another Wellness Wednesday. Today's topic is get your gut right. So, we're going to be talking about your stomach today. We're going to be talking about fermentation. Fermented foods is actually what we're going to be talking about. That's the secret. It's fermented foods, okay? So lock in, get your pen, get your paper, get your stuff. We're going to be learning about your stomach today. We're going to be learning about probiotics and how to keep your stomach healthy. So let's get into it. Okay. So if you see me looking down, I got my presentation here on my iPad. So that's where my notes are. Okay. All this information that I'm pulling today is from the National Library of Medicine. So, a little introduction on fermented foods. Okay, fermented foods have been around since the beginning of time. Okay, gut health has been a thing since humans have been a thing, right? I mean, that makes sense. Fermented foods have been a part of the human diet, and right now in the 21st century, we are still eating fermented foods as a way of keeping our gut microbiome intact. So, some of the most popular fermented foods like injera, yogurt, kimchi, kefir, however you pronounce that, sauerkraut, all of these foods are probiotics that improve digestion and boost your immunity. So that's really exciting. So, what is fermentation? So, fermentation is the process by which alcohol, carbon dioxide, and organic acids are produced by microorganisms in the food, primarily from the sugars of the food, and under mostly anaerobic conditions for the production of energy. Okay, so what are anaerobic conditions? Anaerobic conditions are conditions under which no oxygen is allowed to enter the space. Okay? So basically, what happens is when you put foods in an anaerobic condition without any oxygen, alcohols, carbon dioxide, and organic acids produced by the food itself protect the food and creates an environment that inhibits the growth of other microorganisms. This allows for a longer shelf life and it reduces the rate of spoilage. Okay? So I'm just gonna review that one more time so you guys understand what happens when you put foods into a closed jar. Okay? When you put foods into a closed jar with no oxygen, the foods themselves, the sugars in the foods produce alcohols that protect the food. So that prevents it from becoming dangerous to us, but at the same time, there are microorganisms that are also producing good things, good bugs that help us and protect us, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about now. These fermented foods contain beneficial probiotics that support your gut health, okay? They can boost your immune system, they can reduce inflammation. Now, why are probiotics important? Because they aid in the absorption of your food. They bring about a pre-digestion that allows the ingredients of the foods to become more bioavailable to your body. Okay? So that's really powerful. I don't want to rush by that, okay? Like these acids and alcohols that are produced by the sugars in the anaerobic environment, okay, also break down the food, pre-digesting it for you. So when you consume these products, the food is already pre-digested, making it easier for your body to access the nutrients that are in that food. Like, that's powerful. Okay, so the different types of fermented foods. Sauerkraut and kimchi, those are probably the most popular types of fermented foods, right? These are probiotic powerhouses, okay? So sauerkraut has become really popular, used on hot dogs, brats, sausages, right? Kimchi, really popular in Korean cooking, in Asian foods. When you go to a lot of Japanese restaurants or other restaurants, sometimes they have kimchi on their menu, and that's something that you should definitely try. It's a little spicy though, okay? So, does anybody know where these two foods originated from? Where did sauerkraut originate from, and where did kimchi originate from? Now, I kind of already gave you a hint on the kimchi part, but I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about that before I tell you. Sauerkraut, all right, think about the context of it. Now, a lot of you in my classes before have said Germany, right? Germany, European country, sauerkraut, right? That makes sense. But actually, both of these foods originated in Asia. But let me tell you why. So, during the building of the Great Wall of China, all right, soldiers from all across the world, builders from all across the world came, and some of these people from Asia, kimchi and fermented cabbage with them when they came to build the Wall of China, okay? People from Europe, people from Germany, people from all over the world came to do this, okay? Very similar to the building of the Panama Canal. That's not about what this presentation is about, but that's just a little bit of my history. But anyways, I digress. During the building of the Wall of China, okay, when these people from all around the world came together, okay, they shared food, they shared cultures, they shared music, right? Language together with each other. And so people from Germany started eating this fermented cabbage and they loved it. And they understood, maybe they didn't have the science in, but they definitely understood its benefits, right? Or maybe felt its benefits. So, anyways, they took this fermented cabbage with them back to Europe, back to, Germany and these places. And over time, they named it in their language sauerkraut. But that is not where it came from, okay? Sauerkraut is actually from China, and kimchi is actually from Korea, okay? So I have a picture here of some of the ancient um, fermentation vessels that were used to make this ancient sauerkraut and this ancient kimchi. Obviously, back in the day, it wasn't called sauerkraut. Like the Chinese obviously would not have used that word to describe the fermented cabbage. But um, yeah, very cool. They would, as you see, it's a very large vessel, and at the top of it, there's another pot, and that allows for oxygen to escape. But how these were designed, no oxygen could enter it, right? And as we just learned, that's important. It needs to be an anaerobic condition because without an anaerobic condition, harmful microorganisms will start to form in that food and it no longer becomes a healthy food, okay? So I want to talk about the originators of fermented food, which, as we know, life began in Africa. And so Africans have a list of fermented foods, okay? So they have tuber-based products like fufu and lafum. They have cereal-based products. They have legume-based products. They have beverage-based products. They have dairy-based products. They have grain-based products. Probably the most popular here in the United States, called injera, is a fermented bread-like spongy substance that is used in um, mostly African cooking and eating. It's a way for them to grab ingredients and eat them with their hands. Really, really delicious. Highly recommend. But the fact that Africa has so many fermented foods, and we all know is the motherland, right, just shows how important and the importance of eating fermented foods, number one. And number two is our ancestors definitely ate fermented foods, and probiotics are an important part of being a healthy human. Okay, we got to get the good stomach bugs in there. So, how do you incorporate fermented foods into your diet? Right? I have a picture here of some kimchi. Here, if you've never seen kimchi before, but just Google it. You know what I mean? But yeah, we have a picture here of some kimchi. My favorite, the one up here, is I think it's the radish kimchi. And it's like crunchy and like, whew, I love it. Okay, so how to incorporate fermented foods into your diet? You want to start with small portions, like you want to start with small portions and adjust the taste to avoid any, you know, digestive issues or anything like that. You want to start small. Okay, if you've never had a fermented food, you want to start small. And one more thing I want to say is that a lot of the times when you buy something like you're like, great, I love sauerkraut on my hot dog or on my whatever. You know what I mean? You go to the store, you buy sauerkraut. You have to understand something really quick, and that is that when you buy a product from the store that's labeled sauerkraut, if that thing is not raw and unpasteurized, it has no probiotics. Okay, because when they pasteurize it, you kill all of those bacteria. It's like pasteurization is like antibiotics, okay, in the body. That's like the equal thing to food when you pasteurize it. The good and the bad, you say bye bye to it. Bye bye. That's what happens when you pasteurize something, okay? It's great. It was a great thing. We needed pasteurization to guarantee, quality. However, there is a lot lost when we pasteurize things, okay? So, that being said, when you go to the store to buy your fermented foods, you have to make sure that you're buying something that's raw. It has to be raw, cannot be pasteurized, okay? So, in this country, in America, some of the brands that you can buy that are really powerful raw at most Sprouts or Whole Foods would be Bubby's. That would be probably the first one that I would recommend. I think that their recipes are created for the American palate and are not too strong, and their flavor profiles that you already know, right? So they have pickles, they have, fermented foods that are really good for you that are also very expensive. So there's that, right? If this is, raw, like real products, okay? So you're going to pay about $7, $7 to $8 for a jar of these pickles, but these pickles are alive, okay? That jar is teeming with what your gut is like needs, okay? Of course, how to incorporate fermented foods into your diet. Start small, okay? If you've never had a real raw pickle that's still alive, don't eat the whole thing like you would like a normal pickle that's pasteurized. Okay? Take that pickle, cut it in some nice little like, you know, hamburger chip pickle chip size, have a few. Give yourself a few hours, see how you feel. Okay? Try adding these fermented foods to your meals, okay? If you are the type of person that maybe you don't love vegetables, to eat vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, this is a great way to get your fruits and vegetables in a way that's like powerful, like boom, boom. So you can just, with your lunch, go to the store, or you could make them, and I can teach you how to do that happily. But we can, easily get these at the store, and then just add it to your lunchbox. Put one pickle in your lunchbox every day, right? Like that's easy. If you're not a big pickle fan, if you like, but you can deal with the sauerkraut, add a few ounces to your sandwich or to your salad or to, whatever food is that you already love. And, cabbage is a veggie, cucumbers are fruits. So there you go. Get a nice serving of your fermented foods each day, and you're upping your fruit and vegetable game. Um, Another really popular fermented product that's become really good, and now there's a lot of companies doing it. There's products like kombucha that have, fermented food. That's a drink. There's like kefir, a lactose dairy-based drink that you can easily get. My only caveat when you start getting into the drink world is that they will add a lot of sugar. And so for me, as a very gut conscious chef, which is why we're, here learning about fermented foods in your stomach. And there's a lot more to be said here and learn here, but I just want to make this a quick presentation. But if when you start adding sugar to something that is supposed to be good for your gut, you're canceling out, in my opinion. Like those two don't go together, right? Sugar, especially added sugar, and helping your gut microbiome is like, for me. So if you're gonna buy kombucha or, kefir or yogurt or, in that family, I think that you should focus on things that have little to no sugar. Okay. So I have done many presentations in the past, Wellness Wednesday, with this class topic. If you'd like to learn about how to actually make sauerkraut, which I think is the easiest place to start. We all know like a head of cabbage costs like a few dollars, All you need is a medium head of cabbage, 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of salt, and filtered water, and time, which is at least, and that's TIME, and that's at least 10 days. And bam, you have your own homemade, delicious sauerkraut. It's phenomenal, okay? If you want to learn that, let me know. I'd love to teach you. Okay, we can make pickles. I have a recipe for pickles, cucumbers, salt. Um, I add a little bay leaf, turmeric, little peppercorns, a little dill in there. You make a little dill pickle, you know what I mean? Like we could totally do it. So I really appreciate you tuning in today to learn about the amazing benefits of fermented foods. As I mentioned before, the sourcing for this was from the National Library of Medicine. It's really my go-to spot for all of these presentations about anything food related. Of course, please don't start any kind of regimen or do anything without consulting your physician. This is not at all to be taken as medical advice. Okay. And for those of you that don't know me already, I'm Chef Tiffany, right? I'm a personal chef. I'm a wellness coach. I'm a keynote speaker. and I have over 15 years of food and beverage experience. And I'm really passionate about helping everyone learn how to overcome lifestyle factors and develop healthy habits around food.